keeping things functioning in LA. And then, of course, we're going to have Governor Gavin Newsom. And I want to get your thoughts on it, as well as what you've seen firsthand on the ground in the great city of LA.
Looting. Many businesses have now been affected by or vandalized. Last night, there were 23 businesses that were looted. And I think that if you drive through downtown LA, the graffiti is everywhere and has caused significant damages to businesses and a number of properties. So my message to you is, if you do not live or work in downtown LA, avoid the area. Law enforcement will arrest individuals who break the curfew, and you will be prosecuted. Hundreds of officers from police and sheriff departments from across the region and state are working alongside LAPD through a unified command structure. The curfew will be in place tonight from 8 p.m. until 6 a.m.
And of course, then here is Governor Gavin Newsom talking about Californians not to give in to Donald Trump, because, of course, here we go.
At this moment, we all need to stand up and be held to account, a higher level of accountability. If you exercise your First Amendment rights, please, please do it peacefully. Well, many of you are feeling deep anxiety, stress, and fear, but I want you to know that you are the antidote to that fear and that anxiety. What Donald Trump wants most is your fealty, your silence to be complicit in this moment. Do not give in to him.
Okay, now it looked like Gavin Newsom was kind of tearing up for a little bit, and I also want to pull up this article here from RT. Before we read it, I just want to please pull up the headline here for people to see it. Curfew imposed in Los Angeles following days of riots. Now, Matt Weinglass, you are the host of The Homeless Left. You've done a lot of great work for that channel, as well as collaborating with a good friend of the show, Craig Jardula Pasta, who's been doing so much great stuff as well. Shout out to him. But Matt, you've been on the ground. What have you seen firsthand? What's going on? Because there's people saying that, things are looking like they're set up. It's almost like some parts are being manufactured. Obviously, yes, people are emotionally charged with ICE as well as the Trump administration. So I want to give the floor to you, Matt. Take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Kit. And it's such interesting timing because the curfew just got put in place last night, and I was it was actually RT. It's funny because you put that article up at the end. RT reached out to me. They wanted my take on the ground. They didn't really have anyone in the middle of it. And so as I was about to go on with them, we saw the curfew happen. And like you mentioned here, I'll try to connect the dots for people here, because it is, without understanding the PSYOP part of this thing, it seems like complete chaos. Well, it is chaos, but we have to understand that this chaos is being created on purpose in order to bring on the next stage of the surveillance state. That's how we have to start this conversation. So what's led up to this? We're starting from a point where the immigration issue was the thing that Trump ran on. He's flexing his muscles right now and saying, this is what I ran on, this is what I'm going to do. So this war between Gavin Newsom and Trump that's been going on the last few weeks is actually way more than a couple weeks old. It's months old, because we've covered the LA fires. This is an idea of saying we have a state that has been crumbling for years. We know that the economic structure here, the infrastructure, the homeless problem, we know everything is out of control here. We had the fires go down. So Trump has been flexing his muscle since January, saying, I'm coming in there to do, you better watch out, Gavin Newsom. Your state is failing. We're going to do something about it. And here we are. And yes, Trump brought in a massive amount of military here. That we have the Marines, they just arrived. But what do they all need to be here for? Well, they need to be here for because there is a manufactured storyline that needs to take place where LA is the centerpiece of it, and it's happening real time. I mean, we called this out before it happened, and now it's busting out in all other cities. And I want to hear what's going on in Chicago with you soon here, Kit. But just to be clear, this is the blueprint. So what's going on here is you have Trump with the immigration issue. We see the numbers. We know that Obama and Biden have deported way more people than Trump. In fact, it's like double, at least double in Trump's best time. And so when you're saying best, as in he promised his base, he would be upping the deportations. He's been doing 600 a day starting from day one of his second term. That's only half of what Obama was doing, and even less than what Biden was doing. So it's only in the last week and a half where he upped this. So this is what happened. This is what got everybody in LA afraid, and rightfully so, because what's been going on is he's basically been instigating these ICE raids, going into the most random places and just like interrupting. Like, we're talking graduations, we're talking elementary schools. He's just showing up at the Home Depots and just arresting everybody, and pulling people away from their families. That's what set this off. So the narration is that we have this racist president that's going after everybody that doesn't look white, and that is enough to get people upset and afraid and in the streets. Now you've set the stage for what we're seeing is a massive psyop operation, because you put these infiltrators into the crowd to make it violent right off the bat. And we saw this the first couple days, Saturday, Sunday, down in Compton. We were there. We saw the weapons being distributed to these people on the street. This is where the LA riots happened in 1992. So this is this was like, oh my God, are we living through this whole thing again? But we know how this works. The infiltration, you set up bricks, you give them the tools they need. And these people are trained to do this. They're coming out of nowhere. They don't represent the group that's actually affected by this. They're very highly skilled to come in and infiltrate. And then the police, and I'll tell you guys about the police. These guys are so well trained to be in two different modes. They're going to be chill, they're cool. We have our press badges. They're very cool with us. But as soon as they get the order to attack, we are in a war zone. And I'm telling you, you asked me if I was saying safe up front. I as best as I can. But when they get their order to attack, they attack. We're talking rubber bullets. We're talking these smoke bombs. We're talking tear gas coming from all sides. Like you're in the middle of like a sabotage, like boom, 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 boom. And our equipment is going to fall on the ground. We almost lost a few items running around. But the point is that when you're looking from the outside, you see this chaotic situation where he called it in advance. He says, you can't handle the situation, Gavin. And now the clip you just played, Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom, they have to concede and say, listen, we got to implement this stuff now. So in a way, Trump's bullyish behavior has kind of won here. He's won the game, but it's again, this is by design. Now all the other cities can pick up where LA left off and head into this dangerous area where the only solution is going to be upping the surveillance state. And that's going to affect everyone. And that's what we really need to be talking about.
Right on. All right. So obviously, I think what we can assess here is that, first of all, Democrat incompetence from Mayor Karen Bass, who already failed miserably with the LA fires that were impacting you guys a couple of months ago. And even again, just looking at the long-term damage, I mean, LA's got a long road to recover. And now this is just another gut check from a mayor that seems to be stepping in deeper and deeper crap. And then, of course, you have Governor Gavin Newsom as well, who, of course, with his COVID policies, didn't really make him popular with people in California. So there's a lot of things to take away from this, including for the fact that now Trump has the political ammunition to say, well, I need to deploy the National Guard, and, well, I need to deploy Marines, and here we are. Now, as someone who is a veteran, you know, I don't like the idea of active service men and women being put in a position where they have to be law enforcement. There has to be a separation between the military and the judicial law system as well. And regrettably, this isn't the first time active servicemen were deployed. There's been numerous incidents in which there was, you know, riots and instability that took place. But what I fear happening is what you pointed out is a surveillance state happening, a fear of us being looked into, a fear of our rights being taken away. And I've been warning about this for a while, and I think it's, especially people close to me, I think it's fallen on deaf ears. And I think it's, I don't want to say to these people, hey, you know, I told you so, because I don't want to do that. But I want to pull up this tweet right here. that is very apropos. And it's from an account called Adam Media. All right, they
Yeah.
got a lot of followers, 339 thousand followers on X. So I mean, hey, he's a
Yeah, that's
commentator.
great. That's great.
Does.
I absolutely great coverage on everything. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm gonna read this, and you know what? I don't want to say that it's gonna be over, but it's at that point where if you remember the Outer Limits or Twilight Zone, where the characters are almost close to stopping a big conspiracy or a takeover, but it's already too late, and I don't know if we'll ever get our freedom again. I feel like we're at the end of one of those episodes. So I'm getting a sinking feeling like all this is following a script. The end goal is a surveillance state, not just a surveillance state, but to make people cheer for one. People don't care as much about the big, beautiful bill, which is going to destroy America with debt. It made Elon implicate Trump on the Epstein files. It was that bad. And now Americans are supporting Palantir.
Yep.
It's like a script has been perfectly executed. Gavin is playing his part well. They give you a problem, then they provide you the solution. Never forget this. Also, the bill banned AI regulation. No one is talking about that anymore, or how all the shady crap they did to get it passed. And I have to say, as someone who's covered media and journalism and politics, I've noticed that there's been a decline in a lot of people in independent media. We've been hit hard. Obviously, the election cycle's over, but with the new algorithm being set up, AI taking over, a surveillance state happening, it does lead me to wonder, okay, well, we had a lot of fun doing this, and these LA riots seem to be a perfect recipe, a perfect spice. I was thinking like maybe people would be speaking out more, but instead I'm hearing more people call for control, surveillance. Go ahead, Matt.
So no, he's pointing this out there very well here, and we should be talking about Palantir. That should be the first topic every single day. We've been covering Palantir from when this went down 2 weeks ago. It's not so people know to catch them up. Palantir is the company. It's the Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, connected with JD Vance, by the way, our vice president. This is like Halliburton 2.0, where you bring your vice president in who actually has the technocratic connections, and the whole point was to bring in this most advanced AI company that will then be the centerpiece of all of the data. It's a supercomputer. This is like we're literally living through a sci-fi movie right now. A supercomputer with all of our data on it, not just like, oh, hey, what your social media is here and your bank accounts there. We're talking about getting into everything, the algorithm of everything of our behavior, anticipating moves before it happens. Pre-crime division. This whole thing we saw in Minority Report, which is another sci-fi movie. You guys should check it out. This is coming to life right now. Palantir, the deal just went down 2 weeks ago with Trump. So the idea is that why do we have to look at the timing? All of a sudden, he took the ICE thing to the next level. Why didn't he do it on day one? So people said, oh, it took him a while. It didn't take. He did it at a snap of a finger when he was instructed to. This isn't about Trump taking over the country. You said earlier, I want to say I told you so to people. They're not even going to listen to you, Kit, because they think that they're telling you that they told you so, because they have been completely backwards brainwashed that this is about the tyrant Trump living out the Hitler fear that they warned us about. If you don't vote for Kamala, Hitler's taking over the planet. That's what they're seeing. They're not understanding that this is a surveillance state and Trump is just the means to get there. He's not making the decisions. Palantir is now making the decisions. The people we need to be most afraid of and looking close at is Alex Karp, Peter Thiel, and JD Vance, who quietly sits on the side and lets Trump be the mouthpiece of all the shock and awe tweets that we're seeing playing out with these theater games back and forth. It's not about those, Trump versus Newsom. That's just distraction. The real battle is the people versus the surveillance state. And Palantir, the most Zionist, psychopathic company, is now going to be running a supercomputer. I'll say that again, a supercomputer that will then coordinate with all of the federal agencies as a private entity that will control everything. We're talking all of our anti-war stuff, all of our anything we're doing for journalism, we're going to wake up the next day and not even have access to our accounts. We can't even go live to report on anything. That's what we're talking about here. So the fact that mainstream is not even mentioning Palantir, and they're still driving home this stupid premise, this one-dimensional assessment that Trump just all of a sudden got extra racist. He's always been racist. He just got extra racist one day 2 weeks ago and decided, now I just want to round up all the illegals. That's just the means to get to the end, which I'll say again is one full supercomputer surveillance state for all Americans. Immigration is just the means to get there. And let me just tag on one more time. The immigration thing is real. The people here in LA, it's a Latino population, majority population Latino. They are petrified, and they have a right to be, because it is scary when you get raided for no reason in the middle of your graduation or your elementary school classroom day. This is what we're seeing here. So I want people to step out of and look at the full picture, and don't make this about Hitler uniquely is taking over the world. That's not what's happening here. It's a surveillance state.
Right. I have had so much worry, and it's not like I've been telling people like this is going to happen. And, I don't want to be pointing my finger saying I told you so. It's just more of it's just disappointment in people I've known, people I used to associate with. And I just think right now there's a lot of unnecessary distractions that are making us, and even then, I don't even know how to sit down, even in a peaceful environment, just say like, hey, look, there's a lot of bull right now, and we're all probably being surveilled. We're all probably being looked into, and it's rather disheartening. And there's a lot of stuff that Hardlands media and everyone else in independent media are facing off against. We're facing off against our own challenges, our own trials and tribulations. But this surveillance that's happening is the big issue. And these LA riots, look, Trump did promise that this was something he was going to fight for, that he was going to start deportation. And, it's a campaign promise. It's not the best campaign promise in the world, but okay, he's following through on it. But there's a cost, and that is, all right, let's say if Kamala Harris or Biden did win, Palantir was still going to happen. It just would have been more corporatized, but people would be asking more questions. There would be a little bit more pushback. I could see a lot of conservative influencers saying, well, Biden is trying to spy in on us, which again, it's not Biden. It's more of the establishment and about having control. So Trump is he's part of that system too. It's a two-party system, and they're all friends with each other. The thing about Trump is that he's a perfect distraction, because anything he says will get the immediate media attention. And right now, he's able to capitalize on the LA riots. He's able to capitalize on, even of some of the violent imagery there of cars on fire and everything else. But Matt, I want to return back to the LA riots just for a little bit, because you were on the ground there. There's of course the imagery that you see from corporate media of cars on fire, people standing on cars. Was there anything that really stood out to you that seemed suspicious, odd, or any of that? What did you have any interactions with people on the ground there? Do any kind of interviews?
Yes, absolutely. So the protesters that were really there to fight for their family, fight for their friends, fight for the people that have been in LA living peaceful lives, not no criminal history, except for the fact that they don't have their official documents yet. They're still undocumented. But what's happening is they're showing up to do peaceful protesting. What does peaceful protesting look like? Well, peaceful protesting can take a lot of different forms. When you don't disrupt, though, you're not effective. So a lot of times people will say, and AOC is guilty. We know we've seen the drill. Like, you can disrupt, but you got to do it in a way that is convenient for the establishment. And it's like, that's not effective, right? So we did see peaceful protesting that did get to the point of disruption, not violence, until random people that were not part of this movement, people that had their entire faces covered, were wearing the weirdest type of accessories that did not fit into anything. I'll give you an example. One guy we discovered was an infiltrator. Absolutely. We started yelling, "Fed, Fed, Fed," and everybody joined in. And this is what I'll tell people: if there are going to go out there in your local major city that is having protests right now, I will tell you, get vocal. I'm going to actually say it, kid. I'm going to say the thing. If you see something, say something. And I actually mean it this time, because what happens is people are, when you get into this herd mentality of like groupthink, you get used, and you got this adrenaline rush going. Anybody on a bullhorn or anybody shouting, you tend to listen to it because it sounds like, oh, this is the next thing, because you're waiting for kind of an instruction. And so that's when people get confused. And I'm going to bring this up. This is important, so people on the right can understand how this works, because they've also dealt with the exact same thing at January 6th. We saw the Fed infiltration at January 6th. People like Ray Epps telling the crowd the night before on January 5th and all through the next day, we're going to enter the Capitol. That's what we're going to do. We're entering the Capitol. People are like, well, no, we're not. That wasn't the plan. We're out here to protest. We're not going to enter. No. We'll do it peacefully, but we got to enter the everybody. We're going to. So we've seen this before. These are infiltrators. These are feds. So when you see something weird, like somebody saying, let's attack right now. And by the way, we knew this one guy, and I'll tell you about this guy. So he had a Palestine head garb, Free Palestine, but he was holding a communist flag, and then on his chest said property of Allah. And he was saying, get out of here, Democrats. He was so confused. His MK Ultra was not going well. Something was off. He was just like there was a glitch in his something was wrong. But what he was able to do was go up, waving his crap in front of the cops, and they weren't doing anything. It was the weirdest thing. And we were like, this is an infiltrator. He's trying to get people to attack the cops. They're not they're letting him do whatever he wants. And he's just yelling, and he's conflating all of these issues into one thing, which nobody there was doing that. That's not what the people there were doing, was all those different symbols. And so it makes for good shock and awe TV to go, look at those crazy Islamic terrorists with their communist flags, and their Palestine want us to kill all the Jews, and now they're attacking cops. You see how this works? Do you understand that when you are in an area where there's a lot of adrenaline rush, you might go with that flow and go, oh, it's time to do this now. So instead of doing that, and if you guys see this out in your nearest city, say, this isn't right. You infiltrator, Fed, get the hell out of here. This is not right. And then everybody will join in. And we did that. And we stopped this guy, and we got him the hell out. It's not right. And so this is the type of thing we have to look out for.
Right. So look, here's what I'm going to add on here too. All right. To everyone that is watching this, please be careful when you're out there protesting or supporting or following anything on social media. I want everyone to please take good care of yourselves. Keep an eye out. But I think right now we can accept the fact that this is here. There's no going back. And that at this point, I don't see the riots stopping anytime soon, and I don't see the protests stopping anytime soon. This is going to give a lot of political ammunition to Trump and his administration. But there's a cause and effect, because Democrat incompetence, and I see this happening in mostly blue cities, will help out Trump and his agenda. But the whole agenda is really spying in on you, seeing what you do. But Matt, I'm going to give you the final word. Go ahead, buddy.
Look, I'm not trying to, be a Debbie Downer here, but like, let's say you have the good intention, go out for a good cause. We have to go out and we have to fight for good causes. And they always start as good causes, and then they get captured. We see it time and time again. We saw it with Black Lives Matter. We see it with it so many times. It starts from a good place and it gets captured. But if you still have that impulse to show up and be on the right side of history, as we say so many times with the Palestine marches and the protests, be on the right side of history, show up, but understand that even if there's no infiltrators doing anything at the time, and you're actually part of a peaceful protest, the police are ready to attack whether or not they get a bottle rocket thrown at them or anything shot at them by an infiltrator. They're going to attack anyways. We saw that the other day at the federal building downtown, where it was the most peaceful one I saw of all the days, where it didn't seem like any infiltration was happening. It was people were there shouting loud. But
there is something I do want to point out though, is that look, I understand people are emotionally charged, and I just got this message from another person too. Like, look, yes, there are infiltrators, right? But there's also people who are not well in the head. And I think it's also important for us to differentiate to. Yes, there are always going to be somebody in the crowd who's going to be maybe with law enforcement or something of that nature. Okay. But there's also going to be people who are very unhinged too and think they're the next freedom fighter or George Washington. And I think it's important for everyone to understand that, like, there's ways in which, again, if you want to protest, and I have my questions of protesting right now because I saw them at the height during Trump's first term, and I find it rather odd now that this is the same go-to tactic when probably the best tactic for a lot of these people, if you want to really implement change, if there's going to be thousands, tens of thousands of people showing up, citizen ballot initiatives, supporting third parties and independents, and building movements and organizations not connected to DC. I think that's how we can implement real change, by actually organizing and actually creating real political movements, not just protesting a street or blocking off traffic, not burning down stores, and of course not in. Again, look, I understand the need to protest. That is a tool. It is an effective tool, but if it's going to be overused, it's going to get to the point where it's played out. And I think it's being also used as an excuse for, well, more cameras on the streets, more laws to check out your emails, and so, or more laws to hear your private phone calls. Okay, so think about it, folks. Anything can be used against you, so just be safe out there.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, that's what I would say. You're right, Kit. There's always going to be a way that the protesting, which starts from a good place, can be used against you. So there's other means to get to that goal besides stopping traffic and stuff. But I will point out about the stopping traffic. Police and highway patrol stop traffic all the time. How many times have you been caught? So that I want to make that's a distinction between vandalism and burning things. That's a very big distinction. And I'm not saying that stopping traffic is effective. You can argue whether it's effective or not, but it's not violent, and it's not. So there's a difference. And when you stop traffic, you know what? That's when the police come in and they said, these people are being violent. Let's start shooting at them. Let's surround them. Let's make them look like they were the instigators. And yeah, people can't get to work. It sucks. But police and highway patrol do it all the time. You're stuck in, you have to sit for a half hour, and nobody has a problem when they do it. I'm just saying that. But I think you're absolutely right. We have to look for other ways to be heard besides getting in the street, because it is dangerous out there. It's absolutely dangerous. The mental illness is a thing. The infiltration is a thing. They're going to conflate all of it and say it's all representing the cause. So you're going to get screwed with it either way, but just be prepared for that long-term fight, because we are certainly in a war with the powers that be and the surveillance state.
Exactly. I got you, man. And I think we got to just be careful. So look, there's many things to be careful of. And, you know, even I am thinking about covering the protests, the No Kings March on Saturday. But look, beware of anyone. If it's a stranger, they might seem too keen on you. Just, you know, not saying that they're a Fed, just keep your head on a swivel. And also, if you are going to participate, be careful of people who might be a little unhinged. So be safe out there. And Matt, I want you to be safe as well, because you've done a lot of great work, and that's what matters. So everyone, be safe, and be best.